Hi, welcome to this presentation with Napatech. My name is Eirik Ørsland and I'm an analyst with ABG. With me today I have the CEO of Napatech, Ray Smets. He will give us a 20 minutes presentation and then we will round off with some questions after that. So with that, give the word over to you, Ray.
Eirik, thank you very much, and welcome to all the attendees. I'm Ray Smets. I'm the CEO of Napatech. I'm actually based in San Francisco, California, but our company is based in Copenhagen, Denmark. I'll do my best to compress this presentation into about 20 minutes time and leave plenty of time for Q&A afterwards. My goal here is really to give you a high-level overview of what Napatech does. And if you want to go to slide number 3, which is the topic slide, please. Yeah, just what excites us about the potential of the business, why we believe this is a very interesting investment for our investors currently, and we'll just touch a little bit on, from a financial perspective, how we're doing. So next slide, please. So I'd like to start off with just a very high-level overview of who we are. So Napatech is a leader in what is known as SmartNIC technology. So we build SmartNICs. I'll show you what a SmartNIC looks like in just a few moments. But it's a very, very important, and it's a very hot market here in Silicon Valley and around the world. We have customers that basically span the globe of many different kinds and types, and there's an increasing interest in this particular part of the marketplace. From a company perspective, we've been performing well over the last 3 years. I took over this business about 4 years ago and made a promise to build a business that had the potential for significant growth and had the potential for strong leverageability, so we could grow the revenue faster than costs and deliver what we hope our investors like is both positive gross margins and positive EBITDA and profit. We do have a very interesting prospect here. We do something very unique in the industry. We've been doing it for about 20 years, almost 20 years now. We're building software that runs on something called an FPGA. It's very hard to do this. We do have patents that protect the business, but what really protects our business is time and expertise, and that's something that Napatech brings to the marketplace and has created a world-class leader company in this particular technology domain. So it's a little complicated. So the next slide, please, will make it very simple for you. What you see here are these little devices in the middle of the screen. These are called NICs, Network Interface Connection Devices, sometimes known as Ethernet connectors. And basically, these are form factored to fit within any standard server that runs in any data center globally. And that's very, very important because it's not really the hardware that makes the important point here. It's the software that runs on it. What's embedded on this piece of hardware is a little chip called an FPGA. An FPGA is a super high-performing, fast piece of silicon that we write software on to actually power the SmartNIC. And what it does basically is it creates a turbocharge factor for the server. So the server CPU has a certain amount of capacity, and you know everything is running on a server these days. You want to be able to run it faster, more efficiently, and provide more capability from the applications that run on those servers. And the art of the opportunity right now is to move those workloads from the server CPU to these little NICs that plug into the server. So every server that is being deployed in every data center globally is a hardware addressable market for Napatech, and we build best-in-class smart NICs that run on these servers. What makes this a smart NIC is the fact that it is software programmable. So when you invest in a company like Napatech, you're not really investing in a hardware business building NICs that run in servers. You're investing in a software business that happens to be form factored into a hardware device called a NIC that runs in a server. That's why we're able to sell our product at a very high price. We get the benefit of software gross margins, and you see our very strong gross margins of 70+%, and that's what we've guided for the current fiscal year. So we build smart NICs. Next slide, please. So just to give you a round robin feeling for what we're so excited about in this industry, and I'll go through each of these boxes in a little greater detail. But Napatech has been building our solutions now for about 20 years, and we feel honestly that we're never in a better position than we are currently. We have a market that is exploding. We didn't plan it that way. The market's doing this all by itself. The need for a programmable smart NIC that offloads data center servers is so important to many players in the industry that are putting everything in the data center, from tier 1 cloud, tier 2 cloud, telecoms, and enterprises of all types. Everybody has a data center. Everybody's running applications in data centers, and they need to have the capacity and the ability to run more applications efficiently in those data centers. So on the upper right-hand side of this slide, here comes the SmartNIC. The SmartNIC is traditionally has been an FPGA, which is that fast silicon that sits on it, that is basically used to power the horsepower that we need to accelerate applications. And this technology continues to evolve. We're very excited about the fact that more and more focus is being placed on the SmartNIC as being the center of the universe of accelerating applications in the data center. And now all of the telco workloads are being targeted to run on the server. Run on the SmartNIC instead of on the server CPU. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. One thing about Napatech, as you know, we're not a very large company in the whole global domain. Sometimes I say we're a pygmy amongst giants. You'll see that in just a minute when I show you the market share slide. So one way that we do business is we actually go to business directly with our sales organization. We work through partners and OEM relationships with technology companies. And what we've been doing over the last 3 years is building significant partnerships with very large companies within our space. And we believe that these partnerships will deliver significant growth as we get into their marketplace with our products. We're very excited about the partnerships we have with AMD, Xilinx, and Intel. These two guys are the two largest developers of the FPGA technology. We've been working with Xilinx for years. Our Intel relationship is relatively new, and we recently added Achronix to the list, which is a number 3 FPGA maker. But we work with the server companies as well and other technology partners, and our goal here is to find channels to the market that we could not get to normally. Small Napatech cannot walk into a large telecom company and sell our product without having the backing of significant partnerships. And we sell into, on the lower left-hand side, various growing market domains, from anywhere from financial trading, cloud, network infrastructure, especially mobile infrastructure, and cybersecurity. Those are the places we play. That's what our product does best. I'll give you a touch of a little bit more color of that in just a moment. Next slide, please. So what you see here on this next slide is what our market looks like. We exist within what is known as the NIC market. And the NIC market, the network interface connection device market, is basically layered in 3 different significant categories. Think about everything that connects to the internet. Everything that connects to one another it requires a NIC. Your cell phone has a NIC. Your iPad has a NIC. Your laptop has a NIC. Every server in a data center has a NIC. In many cases, it's a basic NIC. It just allows connectivity between 2 devices. But there's different kinds of NICs. Over time, the concept of an offload NIC evolved, which is the purple bar. That's the market that is evolving as a smart NIC, as a offload NIC. And what defines the offload NIC compared to the third bar, which is the pink one on the top, is the offload NIC is hardware only. The pink bar is the programmable NIC, or the smart NIC. That's the one that's programmable with software. That's the market that Napatech plays in. If you look at the full market, you can see that the market is growing rapidly from last year at about 2.8 billion to 6.4 billion in 2026. We believe this. We see this market growing rapidly in front of us, and we're vectoring our investments to make sure we capture as much opportunity that is growing in the pink bar, which is the bar that we play in, or the market that we play in, the subsegment we play in, called the programmable NIC. You'll see it if you look at the full bar. Napatech is a top 10 player in this market, dominated by the big guys like NVIDIA, Intel, Broadcom, and Xilinx. But if you look specifically at the vendor market of the pink segment, which is a very important segment that we focus on, we're a top 5 player in that particular market, competing against some pretty significant players. However, Napatech is the largest FPGA-based smart NIC maker in the world, and we're very proud of that position. And we're one of the largest, smaller versions of these companies that are public and available to investors to invest in. So next slide, please. So what really drives our business? Well, Well, it's pretty obvious that, as I mentioned before, everything is moving to the server. Everything is an application that runs on a server in a data center. We call that the cloudification of everything. So everything is basically software running on a server, and the servers just can't keep up. The servers are built with general purpose CPUs within them, and they do a particular set of functions to run applications and services. Where you really get the power is by plugging the SmartNIC into those servers. So when you look at data centers today, data centers are basically massively scaled locations of servers, just racks and racks and racks of servers. The servers are intended to be as low cost as possible. And when you think about the footprint of these data centers, you want the footprint to be as small as possible. So the real TCO opportunity for a company like Napatech is to help companies that are moving everything into the data center to buy less servers, having a smaller footprint, and making those servers more powerful so they can run more applications more efficiently within a smaller footprint. So the SmartNICs basically are kind of in the right place at the right time when everything is moving to the data center. Next slide, please. So we see some evolutionary steps here. So we've been building our solutions for about almost 20 years now, and Copenhagen has become a bit of a center of excellence for FPGA software design, and Napatech is really the company that's founded that capability. But the industry continues to invest in this technology as an important place to place applications and services within data centers. And there's a new evolution in this area called the IPU, the Infrastructure Processing Unit, or the DPU, the Data Processing Unit. This is brand spanking new, designed by the biggest guys in industry. That's NVIDIA, AMD, Xilinx, Intel, et cetera. And we're already participating in developing software that runs on these types of devices. The objective of the IPU is to offload the entire network stack from the 5G mobile network infrastructure. So all of the 5G services are now running as applications and servers. It's very, very hard to run all of those on general purpose server CPUs. The SmartNIC becomes kind of the place where everybody wants to put those workloads to get as much power out of those servers as possible in the data center. Next slide, please. So Napatech has been able to develop quite a relationship with a number of customers globally. We have about 250 customers over the last 6 quarters that buy products from Napatech. We have 2 different kinds of customers. We have OEM customers that design our product into their solution and take us to market through their designs. Those OEM customers span the spectrum, as you see on the left-hand side. Companies like Rheinmetall, companies like Excelio, companies like Mobileum, and more recently, about a year ago, we announced a relationship with Lenovo, who takes our product as a Lenovo branded solution, and they're selling it to the largest service providers in the Asian market as a Lenovo branded solution to accelerate certain components of the 5G architecture. So the OEM customers are quite important to us because once we win an OEM design win, that kind of revenue relationship exists for about 5 to 7 years. But on the other end of the spectrum, we also work directly with end user customers. These are customers that have data centers, that have applications that run in those data centers, and they need to have the ability to accelerate those applications as needed. For example, Facebook has a cybersecurity application that runs in all of their internal data centers, and Napatech was the chosen SmartNIC to accelerate that cybersecurity application for Facebook. We do that for many different financial companies like Citadel, Bank of America, Jump Trading, pharmaceuticals, cybersecurity, Department of Defense focused companies. And our objective there is to be as applicable on the direct end user side of the business, and we sell very aggressively to the OEM side as well. In the middle, you see our groups of partnerships that we work with to go to market. And as I mentioned, that we get the echo effect of their channels to the market to try to get as much revenue growth as possible. So our hyper growth that we anticipate getting out of Napatech is going to come through a combination of technology development focused in certain high growth areas of the marketplace, working with partners that will get us into those large opportunities as they evolve. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through this slide in detail, although I have it in the deck. You can look at it. I've broken down the types of customers that we've done business with over the last year or so, and what types of customers and categories they are and what they use our product for, which is on the bottom. Once again, just to mention, many different customers that many companies would love to have buy our products all the time to solve significant problems within their data centers. Next slide, please. The important part, and I think it's a very important development for Napatech that our investors need to know about, is that we've been working very hard to develop a product that makes sense to that high growth marketplace. But in order to get more access to that market, we've been building true, deep strategic partnerships that will get us access to those markets in very significant ways. And, you know, for example, I mentioned a little bit about Lenovo. Lenovo is a relatively new OEM relationship, and they've taken our product to the market. They have to sell the product in order for us to earn revenue. But they are actively testing with some of the largest cloud and telecom operators in Asia we would never have access to if we went to directly. And once they get a design win from those customers, and we anticipate that will happen, we would anticipate some very significant order volume from that relationship. And that is the goal of some of these partnerships. We work with the top technology players like Acronix, but one that's been very significant for us, and it's one to watch, is a relationship we have with Intel. And what we've just recently announced, and this is interesting news in today's environment, is we've been working with Intel to accelerate different components of the VMware application running on the Intel versions of the FPGA and SmartNIC. As you know, there's some rumors in the marketplace that VMware is going to be acquired by Broadcom. I think that's just evolving today. It just came out yesterday. So we're working with some of these big partners in some of the most important parts of their go-to-market strategy. And VMware for us is very strategic, and we're very embedded in a relationship with Intel, working with them on accelerating VMware. So that gives you a little bit of a touch of what these partnerships can do. And if you just go to the next slide for just a moment, some people, some customers, some investors like to know, so what's the strategic value? What is the benefit to our partners, or what's the benefit to Napatech? And this slide attempts to give you a sense for why these partnerships are important and why these partnerships can deliver very significant growth opportunities for Napatech. And we have just started this over the last year. And we believe that the partnerships that we have, combined with the technology we're developing, will deliver a very significant growth potential for our business. And we're excited about it. We're very excited about these partnerships. And it's very difficult to build them, as you know. We can't do too many of them, but once you get them, you got to make them work. And that's the mode that we're currently in. Next slide, please. So just to finish off something that I think is very important, that gives you a sense for the type of technology space that we're focusing on, is we're focusing on virtual network functions, accelerating virtual network functions. It's a very technology-oriented concept. But think of it this way. Next slide, please. The mobile network infrastructure is going through a massive change. I think most people know this, but it does take time. I worked in telecom for almost 15 years, so I know how long it takes for telecom infrastructure to change, but the 5G infrastructure basically changes everything. The 4G and prior infrastructures of mobile networking was designed with hardware, routers and switches, all connected together in concert to provide mobile services. That's all gone out the window. The 5G architecture is now all applications that run on servers and data centers. Sound familiar? Well, that's important for us. And those applications that provide these 5G mobile services are very compute intensive. They require a lot of CPU, and they cannot just run on the standard CPU in the servers that are being deployed in these data centers. So what Napatech has been doing, if you look at the next slide, please, is developing capabilities within our SmartNIC that accelerate very important parts of the 5G architecture. If you can move a lot of those heavy workloads from the server CPU onto the SmartNIC, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. And service providers are going to get a lot more capability out of their data center architecture, developing and deploying 5G mobile services. This investment has begun in the mobile services arena. These architectures are being deployed from the edge to the core. We're arriving at a time with some applications and capabilities for the 5G mobile core right at the time that this is getting architected and deployed. So we're hoping that we can get in there with something that is better than the competition. If you look at the next slide basically just gives you a sense for what we can bring to the table compared to what the other guys have. And I don't want to name what the competitor is, but it's a pretty large competitor in this particular market space. And we're using the FPGA, and the other guys are using an ASIC. An ASIC is a hardware designed capability, whereas the FPGA is software programmable. And you can see what we design and what we're bringing to the market. If you look at the bullets on the left-hand side, is something that is significantly faster in terms of performance than what was prior available to these kinds of customers in the 5G mobile space. So we believe we're bringing the most comprehensive feature set for virtual deployments in 5G, and that's a super, super important part of our strategy. So just to bring things to close on the next slide, we're going for it. We're going for growth. We know that historically Napatech has not delivered the hyper growth that we anticipate from this company. We know we can do it. We're very optimistic about it. We're leaning into the opportunity, and we're developing our capabilities to go for a significant growth opportunity in 2022 and beyond. The last slide that you'll see on the next slide is what we have in our guidance for 2022. As you know, we are obligated to provide annual guidance. For a small company like us, that's not so easy. We've done a pretty good job achieving our prior year guidance. We feel very confident about the current guidance we have in place. If we achieve the guidance range that we currently have on revenue, that'll be between a 20 and 33% growth rate for the year, with very significant gross margins. And we think, and we're investing in the business for growth. We believe it's a good prospect for investment now by investors. So next slide, please. So Eirik, so just bringing things to conclusion here is we have a profitable and scalable business. We're going to continue to run it that way. We promised it. We've proven it over the last couple of years to achieve it. We have a great reputation. We have a great business prospect with partnerships and customers. We're increasing our investments to get faster revenue, and we're targeting a very high growth marketplace. And we hope that's a nice, simple overview for many of our new investors. And I'm happy to take some questions. Eirik?
Thank you, Ray. We have time for a few questions. As you mentioned, the underlying market here is driven by server expansion. Can you provide some color on how this market has developed recently and to what extent you're seeing demand coming up in 2022?
Yeah, sure. We track the server market very, very carefully because, of course, it's a pretty important part of the food chain, if you will, for SmartNICs. The healthier the server market is, the more addressable the data center market becomes for Napatech. And that market's growing pretty rapidly. In fact, that market was measured to be about 80 billion in the year 2020. It's expected to be about 138 billion by 2026, which is about a 12% CAGR on a massively large marketplace. And that's important because in the prior 10 years, the data center market has kind of waned a little bit as capacity was being eaten up in the data center. But the capacity now is there, and then the need for additional servers is absolute. And of course, companies don't want to buy more servers. They want to buy less servers, less floor space, and they want to horsepower those servers with NICs and smart NICs like what we produce. So every single server has 2 to 8 slots that you can plug a NIC into. We want to get our NICs into a few of those slots into as many applications as possible. So it's important.
And you also mentioned the virtualization opportunity, for instance, the partnership with Lenovo, but also Intel that you're investing in now, and which could be a transformational opportunity for Napatech. So could you comment on what the next milestone here would be, and potentially how the ramp up would look like in terms of volumes?
Sure. If some of our investors were to check out some prior presentations we've made publicly, you'll know that we've developed a multi-pronged strategy from a product perspective. And I have this fundamental belief that a company grows not because of great sales and great marketing. That's of course important. A company grows because of a great product strategy. And what we have inside of Napatech is a core competency of building software that runs on an FPGA that accelerates things. What we've chosen to do is we've chosen to focus our technology core competency in what we believe are the highest growth potential areas for Napatech. at a time right when they need it. We're not building it too soon. We're not building it too late. We're going to try to get into this market just when the market needs it. And we believe that in the network infrastructure side of the marketplace, the big move is towards virtual networks. Virtual networks meaning applications that run on data center networks. So we focused on a couple of key significant compute intensive areas of network virtualization. We're designing our solution to optimize those capabilities. We feel very good about it because we're testing with customers all the time. We're getting some very positive feedback. And if we can just kind of hit that market just right, it doesn't take 10 or 15 or 40 or 50% of that market to be successful. For Napatech, Napatech is small enough to really grow significantly with even capturing a small part of that marketplace. And we feel like we're in a very, very good position. We're getting feedback from cloud customers right now that are testing our solution that said that they see stunning performance, and we're going to continue to deliver that kind of solution to our customers and wait for the next purchase order. So we're getting there.
Very good, Ray. And thank you for the presentation. I think that's all we had time for today. Thank you for those who listened in as well. Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.